Today is the day that I explain the paper to you, so today is one of the most important days of the course. My suggestions to you are listen to everything that I say. Second, if you have any questions along the way, make sure you identify those questions that you have, write them down, and see me at a late night to ask any of those questions. Third, I would like you to not be intimidated by this paper. A lot of people finish this paper and say that they were sad that they ended up being so intimidated in the beginning of this paper because in the end it wasn't really as scary as they had made it out to be. And finally, this is the major paper for term 4, so it entails most of your grade for term 4 paper writing. So it has a huge impact on your grade, so it is absolutely imperative that you do it. You must do the final paper. There are no exceptions. You must work hard throughout this entire rest of the term so that you are prepared to submit this paper. And if you watch this video, if you've missed the day where I've explained this whole paper to you, not to worry, this video will explain it all. But there are no exceptions. So here is the paper description for you. First of all, there are 2 sections to the paper. The first paper I would like you to write is called Paper 1, Section 1, and the second section I'd like you to write is Section 2. So let me explain the first section for you. Section 1 is 2 to 3 pages long for CP, and for honors, you must do a 4 to 6 page paper. It's doubled expectation for the honor students. I want you to go into more depth and apply the concepts. The first paper, Section 1, is weighted the least, and you basically use the questions on the fully functioning personality outline, and you answer those questions. So if you would flip with me to that section, this is the outline of the fully functioning personality. This is sections 1 and 2, and this here is where I want you to answer the questions. Use the fully functioning essay and go through A1, A2, A3, B1, B2. Okay. If you have problems understanding the reading, like some students do, please go and use my online website. Now, you just go to YouTube, and on YouTube I have 7 different videos that students have used in order to understand the essay that I have given you, and the tutorial walks you through all of the questions. So if you struggle with answering the questions, please go on YouTube and see that first. So for paper section 1, these are the grades. Here's the rubric as far as how you can get the grade that you want. If you want an F, just answer some of the questions. If you want a D, you take the questions and you answer them. So you would put A1, and then you would answer them. If you want a C, you would not only use Hayakawa's words, but you would also use your own words. So you would say A1, here's the question, and A1 answer, and you would write your answer with Hayakawa's words, with your own words, paraphrasing and using Hayakawa. If you want a B, you put everything into paragraph form. So you change A1 into a topic sentence, A2 into a topic sentence. You make sure you have an intro, a body, and a conclusion for the entire paper overall. If you want an A, you do everything that the B paper does, but you do it in an original, witty, creative way. That would be a fine-tuned essay. So when is section 1 due? Well, if you're watching this other than year 2014, please check with Mrs. Johnston because the dates may have changed and they will certainly be different for you. So please ask Mrs. Johnston. For this year, our section is due Monday, March 10th. So please make sure that you have your section 1 in by that time. Now, my biggest suggestion to you is to start tonight. Do not delay. So let me break this down. I'm going to break this down into smaller bite-sized chunks. I'd like everyone to read the packet by a certain date, outline the essay by this date, rough draft essay by this date, and the final section. As I said, ours is March 10th, but please check with Mrs. Johnston in class to get your personal date. Then there is section 2 of the paper. Section 2 of the paper is the biggest part of the paper. This is the most important part. And this is the part that you have been kind of been warned about. This is the most meaningful section of the project because in this section you're going to be talking about yourself and your life, and you're going to be giving us an analysis of you. CP, you are going to write 5 to 6 pages, and honors, you are going to write 7 to 10 pages on this topic. So here is the prompt. For the second paper, you are going to present a judgment of yourself. You will be evaluating the entire course and yourself, basically asking if the ideas in this course have caused you to think about your life. Because it's broad, I have a number of questions down the bottom for you to help analyze yourself. The first question is going to be about Hayakawa's fully functioning personality essay, and the questions that you answered on the section 1 paper will now be used to evaluate yourself. So that paper that you have previously written on A1, A2, B1, B2, now you use that in order to talk about yourself. You basically answer how you rank. Are you the normal definition of well-adjusted? Do you react sanely to people? Do you approach the symbolic effects of life in a certain way? Do you treat others with creativity and morality? So you go ahead and think about your own life and how you rank in terms of Hayakawa's fully functioning personality. But perhaps you didn't like Hayakawa's fully functioning personality, you didn't agree, or you didn't see it as a way to talk about yourself. Then I'd like you to look at the essential questions. They're here under Semantics Essential Questions, and they are questions like, what is language? What is thought? How important is language to you, both before the class and now? How does someone's language change the way that they see or express or think about the world? How good of a listener are you? Et cetera, et cetera. So those questions down there are possibly ways that you could talk about yourself and think about the ways in which you have learned about yourself and the world and language and thought and action throughout this year. And then I have given you a number of other topics for consideration, topics that weren't in the essential questions, but still many topics that we have talked about, and some that we still will be talking about in the coming weeks of semantics. So we talked a lot about advertising and propaganda, cultural projections of beauty. We talked about human civilization and how language binds us through time. We talked about the resultant gratefulness that we ought to have because of all of the gifts that we've been gifted through humanity and through language. We discussed memetics and autotoxic and exotoxic memes, self-fulfilling prophecy, self-talk, placebo effect, fixed and growth mindsets, the passing of knowledge, etc., etc. If any of those questions are of interest to you and you can find a way to talk about yourself and your actions, both of the past and your hopeful actions of the future, those are, again, ways that you can use. And yet there are other topics that we haven't even talked about yet in these essential questions and in these concepts. For example, you can still talk about the books that we've read, like Othello and Brave New World, or Language and Thought in Action. You can talk about the free choice books that you've read. You can talk about any of the chapters from the books that I've excerpted for you, from Nurture Shock or The Power of the Habit or The Numbing of the American Mind. Any of those chapters or excerpts or articles that we have read together, please go ahead and talk about the books and the clips and the movies and the documentaries that we have used to supplement our understanding of semantics. So the goal for this paper, or the thesis of this paper, would be to consider yourself, to be self-aware, to use this paper to consider your life, your thoughts, your actions, your language. And because of that, you can use the word I. You do not have to feel like you have to answer all of the questions, but like a buffet, choose the questions that you like, choose the choices that will best enable you to evaluate your language, thought, and action. Transitions are also sometimes difficult, so know that 1, I do understand that, but 2, the organization of the paper will be important because you'll be able to, I think, thread the paper together, but again, organize beforehand and it will become a lot easier. And many different kids have asked me, is this like a huge journal entry? Yes and no. Because initially, yes, you are talking about yourself, you are talking about the class, you are analyzing your life, but no, because this paper is not a first draft. This paper is a final draft where you have edited, you have revised, and you have fine-tuned everything to be a course summarizing paper. So the next question may be, when is section 2 due? And again, if you're watching this on YouTube, please check with Mrs. Johnston about the deadlines and the requirements to do section 2. But again, there are different ways that you can work on this slowly. First, you should decide which questions you're going to answer. Then you should organize an outline. Then you should set minor deadlines to write different pages by. So write a couple pages by this date and this date and this date. Again, speak with Mrs. Johnston directly so that you can work out those deadlines yourself. There are a couple of other frequently asked questions that I often hear. The question is, can I use my journal? Yes, absolutely. However, if you use your journal, please just cite which date you are using it from. Also, a lot of people want me to check over the paper, but because I have so many, I can't do this. If you need help, first, watch all of the YouTubes, read the packet, highlight it, write down questions, and if you have any more, come and see me for an after school, and I'll answer any remaining questions that you have. There are additionally a bunch of different questions that I get about why this paper is done in the first place, and there are a lot of different reasons. If you want to meet with me, I'll explain those in person. And again, many people wonder when this is due. It is written on the backboard, and I'd like for you to talk with Mrs. Johnston about the specific due dates for your class. Many students ask me if they can pass it in early. Yes, absolutely. That's a great idea. So if you can pass it in early, I'm going to go ahead and give you some motivation to do so. If you pass it in early, I will give you a Johnston book that can be used towards a journal or a book note. And both sections, both paper section number 1 and paper section number 2, are offering book extra bucks to give you an incentive to start this and not procrastinate. It is very important for this final paper that you get these papers in on time. The final deadline is the final deadline, and the final class will be the deadline in which everyone should have all of their papers done. If you do not turn in a paper by that deadline, it will be a 0. See Mrs. Johnston about those deadlines. And if you have any additional questions, please come see me. I would be happy to answer any questions that you have. Thank you so much.